And you explained, and I think you said you found your identity, and that kind of struck me.
I see.
I'll tell you what I thought. Let me finish. I'm going to tell you what I figured. You found your identity. You moved from being a street criminal into a more sophisticated set of crimes by screwing people out of money by contractor fraud. That's my thought. Okay, so that's where my head is right now. So let's chat.
We can see a smirk from Miss Renatza as Mr. Mirabella leaves his mic drop and Victor Jones nodding in agreement. And there's something interesting about contractor fraud, which is what this man is sentenced for. And I think it's that a lot of us have zero tolerance for it. It's something that we just despise. And the judge, I think, felt that way too, because they sentenced him to 15 years in prison. Let's watch this parole hearing and I'll unpack it at the
Good morning, Mr. Falls.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good. Would you introduce yourself to the panel? Tell us your name and your DOC number, please, sir.
Tyrone F Senior, 114508.
All right. Let me introduce the parole panel. My name is Cheryl Renatza. My colleagues this morning on the panel are Mr. Tony Marabella, Mr. Victor Jones. Mr. Falls, I'm going to read some information into the record, and your case was assigned to me, so I'll start the parole interview. We'll hear from the folks there at Rapides, and then at the end, you'll be allowed to make a statement if you want to do so before we reach a decision. All right. So, Mr. Falls, you are, by DOC rules, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're here today because you were sentenced in Terrebonne Parish on November 8th, 2017 for 3 different dockets for home improvement fraud. You received a 5-year sentence on each of those, and that runs consecutive. So it's a total of 15 years DOC time. You have a parole eligibility date, which is August 5th of 2021. Good time date is February 6, 2023, and your full term date is November 6, 2032. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Falls, you're in work release?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been there since January? Where do you work?
Bayou Rapides Corporation.
What do you do for them?
Construction.
What type of construction?
Running skid steel, some of everything, basically.
Just whatever they need.
Still tearing down, stuff like that.
So even though the DOC classifies you as a first felony offender, I noticed there's several arrests on your rap sheet. Starting back, how old were you when you were first arrested? Do you remember?
It's way back, I want to say in my teens, 18, something like that.
And what was that for? Simple burglary, I believe. Yeah.
You can hear me?
What was going on? I didn't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
So what? And then there's some other, I'm trying to get to that page in my record. Okay. So you had simple burglary, 1985, again, 1985 felony theft arrest. I can't see what happened in that case. Possession of a firearm, attempted simple burglary, possession of stolen things. You pled guilty to that one. Possession, distribution, Schedule 2. Misdemeanor, battery of a police officer, another theft. So what was going on with you during that time period?
I didn't think I'd find my identity back then, who I really was.
So you mean, I don't know if I understand that response.
I'm sorry. I guess I was young and,
Tell me about the drug use.
I'm sorry?
Tell me about the drug use.
I never had a drug use.
Well, why were you arrested for the drugs?
I think I was at that time. I think I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I think I was during the time I was visiting some people.
Okay. So you've never used drugs? Is that what you're
No, ma'am.
saying?
No, ma'am. Never
What
did
about-
drink. Sorry.
No, you know alcohol abuse?
Well, never did drink in my life. Never did smoke.
All right. So tell us why you're here today. What happened?
Well, I'm here today.
Yeah, why are you in jail? That's what I mean.
Oh, like a responsibility. Didn't take the full responsibility that I should have taken. And
Well, I want to know what happened. I mean, I know you were a fence builder, and I know that the people paid you to build their fence, and you either didn't do good work or didn't finish the work or some such. Tell us about it.
what it was, I trusted one of my workers, and some money got misplaced, and I was trying to make good on it, but it didn't pan out that way. And one thing led to another. I fought nobody but myself because I should have did what I was supposed to do, which is take care of myself.
So you're saying that the people paid you for the fence, for the work, but you were relying on somebody else to do it?
No, they pay me the money for the work, and I give one of my workers some money to go purchase the material, and the money got lost during that transaction. And so
all three times that happened?
No, all 3 times, no, ma'am.
All right, so that's one case. Tell me about the other 2.
In case I finished probably, I think it was like 2 of the jobs. It was like 85% finished. And I was stopped in the process of doing one job. I guess it was like a communication, because one of the client was out of town. And I think someone came and kind of stopped the project. I think it was his mother or somebody like that stopped the project. And I was on another job actually when that happened. And I wasn't able, I had the material and everything to finish the job. But one thing led to another. And I take full responsibility. Like I said, I should have just been on my P's and Q's, to complete the job. That was, like I said, the job was 85% completed. And it didn't have much, and that would hurt me so bad. It didn't have much to do. And I wasn't able to get to the other job, I think it was because of the weather. And I didn't know, now that I know that you got to start doing work before 45 days is over. It's something new that I learned, that, the job was started before 45 days. But, after a certain period of time, when the weather didn't pit, I didn't go back to the job because I was doing other jobs as well.
Well, let me just let you know that there's opposition to an early release for you. And that opposition comes from the sentencing judge, the DA's office, but of concern to me is the victims and what they had to say. One of the victims says, "I was going through a really bad time when he did this to me." And on and on. He was laughing about keeping the money. He is a liar and a cheat, and he doesn't deserve to get out. Another victim, he stole from me at a terrible time, and he had no justification for doing it. And then the next one says, he doesn't deserve to be out on parole. If I could get my money back, I wouldn't care if he got out, but I know I won't get it. So how would you respond to these victims?
Respond to, first of all, to say I'm sorry for what had escalated to till we able to get to this point. That I'm sorry, but I'm willing to make good on it. However, I need to make good on it. I need jobs to give them the money. My plan is to go apologize to them because I'm a Christian man. It's cute.
It's okay. So when you were in court, did the judge order restitution?
Yes, ma'am. It is
Okay,
after.
so that's still something you got to deal with
Yeah,
whenever you get out of jail.
6 months after I'm out. I think it what it
Okay.
was.
You know how much it is?
I think one of them was for
No, just a
55.
rounded total altogether.
With the 3 victim, I think it was 14,000 or something like that.
That's close. So let me tell you, when I was reading your record and I saw your residence, I think I saw your residence plan, but I did see your job plan was to go back to work for a fence company.
Yeah, I had started a fence company, TNT Fencing. I got my license. It wasn't an LLC license, but it was a license to install fencing. And because I
You
like
still plan to do that?
whatever. I'm a licensed steward as well, and I have options to go offshore if that permit, because I'm a cook, a licensed cook.
Mm.
I'm also a licensed minister as well, and my plans was to link up with a friend of mine and his wife that do go to juvenile detention center, link up with them and do some ministry work with them after this journey that I had. I think God laid it on my heart to do it, and that's my plan. But my most plan is to be a productive citizen, a citizen when I get out, and go back to my church and continue to teach Sunday school and continue to do the things that I believe God called me to do. I was doing a food harvest every twice a month. Really, I would go to food harvest out on Jefferson Highway. I used to go pick up the food and bring it back and unpack it and pack and put all the boxes together for the event the next day and distribute it to whosoever needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Foss, I don't have any other questions. I'll defer to my colleagues. Mr. Mirabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Foltz, I've got a few questions. It looks like your record started in 1985. Is that fair to say? Is that your first arrest in Terrebonne Parish? Or were you arrested before that?
I believe so. That would be pretty accurate.
All right. So you had simple criminal damage to property, simple burglary. Then in 85, you had burglary of a vehicle. Ms. Renatza has gone over all of those things with you. And you explained, and I think you said you found your identity. And that kind of struck me.
I see.
I'll tell you what I thought. Let me finish. I'm going to tell you what I figured. He found your identity. You moved from being a street criminal into a more sophisticated set of crimes by screwing people out of money by contractor fraud. That's my thought. Okay, so that's where my head is right now. So let's chat. What did you do from 2005 until 2014? Because there's nothing on your record there. So tell me what you were doing during that time.
I think I was offshore working for Superior Energy as a cook.
Okay. Now, 2014, I show was your first arrest for home improvement, and you've been arrested 2, 3, 4 times since then. How long you been in prison now?
Close to 4 years.
Okay. How much restitution have you made, period, in these cases?
I wasn't able to, I was incarcerated.
Well, when did you first go to jail?
I went to jail at 16. I got arrested at 16.
Well, you got arrested in 2014, charged with theft, and then you were convicted of home improvement fraud, right?
I got charged with theft. I think
You were arrested for felony theft in October of 2014 in Terrebonne Parish. You went to trial apparently and were found guilty in June of 2017 of home improvement fraud. Is that right?
no, that's not accurate.
That's not you? And you were sentenced in November of 2017 to 5 years DOC?
Yes, sir. I got for theft, but they changed the theft to home improvement fraud.
I understand that. I'm not suggesting differently. You were arrested for theft and you got convicted of home improvement fraud. And then after that, you were added more charges, more charges, more charges. Is that right?
No, all these charges, every time I was going to court for home improvement fraud on the first charge. Then another charge came, like it was, it seemed like it came a domino effect.
Right.
Yes, sir. And you know, and that's something I was trying to avoid. And because every time I went to court, I was getting arrested. You know, I'm like, you know, and I still was doing these jobs. That prior to I got arrested.
Let me just tell you something. My experience tells me that is not unusual in these contract fraud cases. There's a pattern here, and it concerns me. You know,
Yeah.
When you have one contract fraud case where you've got a problem with the person that has hired you, sure, that could be a mistake. But then when you got 2 and 3 and 4, that tells me there's a pattern here.
Yes, that was taking place when I was going to court trying to take care of that first charge. I was still doing the job. And you know, and I was making contact with the people that, you know, that came put the charges on me for home improvement, and I was trying to come to agreement with them.
Did you ever come to any agreement with anyone?
No, I mean, I was told that I couldn't approach them and go talk to them after they filed the charges, to let them know that.
So there was no offer between you and your lawyer to pay them restitution? Is that what you're telling me?
No, sir, I'm not telling you that.
Well, I mean, I know you're not telling me that because I know how that works. You made no effort to pay these people back, did you? In fact, you went to trial and said you weren't guilty and you had to have a trial to get convicted. And that's your right. I don't have any problem with that. But that's what you did. Is that right?
Yeah, I went to trial because I didn't think I was guilty because, like I said, I was doing the job and the job was 85% finished. And I didn't get the opportunity to finish because they didn't allow me to finish the job. They asked me, did I have the material? I told you, yeah, I have the material to finish the job. It ain't gonna take me long.
All of that came out at the trial?
Yeah.
And the jury found you guilty?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how much restitution? I know Ms. Renatza asked you, but do you have any idea how much money these people are out as a result of what you did?
How much money they're out?
Right.
I mean, the thing, the money I can give an account for is the money that they gave me for the material. They didn't give me no money for the label because that's the balance. If I was allowed to complete the job.
And where do you intend on working when you get out?
Either I'm going offshore or go get my license back, where I can be
Your license back for what?
Fence installing.
Now, that's all the questions I have, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Jones?
Folks, how are you this morning?
Oh, good morning. How you doing?
I was in law enforcement for 43 years.
Okay.
I investigated several cases such as yours, several of them. Were you a licensed contractor? Were you licensed?
Yes, sir.
Bonded?
Insured, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So why didn't your insurance pick up and pay these restitution, pay these claims off?
Like I said, it's this was new to me, and I didn't know too much about that. Me being the person that I am, I was trying to do it myself because I tried not to look up for to no handouts. I always trying to make good on my word. That's all I have.
So if I look back at if I contact the Better Business Bureau, I will find your name listed as a licensed contractor bonded with the Better Business Bureau.
Well, it should be. I mean, I went to this government top.
No, I mean, if you were paying the insurance and paying for your license, you would know.
I had insurance through Progressive, Progressive insurance.
So if that was true about it, you gave the money to one of your workers and he misplaced it and whatever, you didn't file a claim on it? You didn't try to?
No, I didn't file a claim on it because like I said, I was trying to take care of myself, but I kind of released the guy that did it and try to move forward, and try to make good on the money that I lost with it, which I should have filed a claim. I should have filed a police report on him because that put me in the bind.
Well, I'm looking at I guess it's a resume for you at the end of I'm looking at, and you got several references down here: Victoria Foles, Alfred Foles, and Audrey Foles.
Yeah, Victoria. I'm sorry.
Who are these people?
Victoria Foles, since last November, been my wife for 30 years. Alfred Foles is my oldest brother, and Audrey Foles is my mother.
Okay. So were they part of your business, or they were just character references for you?
Yes, sir.
And listening to I think Ms. Renata talk about what one of the victims had to say about you, would it be fair to say that you were going around who could not really afford to get licensed people to do their work, and they would contract with you and you got paid up front and didn't complete the work? Is that a true, fair statement?
No, that's not true at all. Matter of fact, the guy, two of the victim was preferred by me by a house builder named Mr. Jimmy. They were referred by him to me. Because I used to do a lot of his work when he built a house. I used to go put the fence around the house that he built. Jimmy Rodriguez is his name. And
are you currently in work release right now? You in work release?
Yes, sir, I am.
And where are you working?
A Bayou Rapide Corporation.
What kind of work you doing?
Construction. I run a skid loader, which is a Bobcat. I do carpentry work. Basically, anything construction got to do with construction, I'm very knowledgeable about it and pretty much skillful about it.
And you've been doing that for quite a while now. How long you been in work release?
I've been in work release since almost a year now. And I like to add that I wrote a letter to all three victims. I don't know if they received it. Apologizing, giving them my sympathy, and I wish we wouldn't have had that encounter like we did. Because I'm never trying to meet nobody on I apologize for this, interview here. I wish it could have been on a better, note. Like just trying to do business, trying to treat people as such.
Looking at your resume, you got a variety of expertise. You're a cook, you're a carpenter, you're a construction worker, and a licensed minister.
Yes, sir. And I've been doing prayer calls since I've been down and on this journey. God has showed me so many things, and I had so many opportunities to share my testimony and to even to lead a lot of guys to Christ. And I'm not trying to use this as as a leverage or anything, but that's who I really am. And
not wrong.
Sorry.
Not to cut you off and everything, and that's good. And sound like you're doing okay where you are. Sound like you're working. You don't have a good work history, but I want to encourage you to find a mirror.
I'm sorry.
I want to encourage you to find a mirror.
A mirror?
A mirror. And look in it. Look closely to find out who Tyrone really is. Okay? You take a deep look inside of you and find out who Tyrone is. Take a good look at him. Okay?
Yes, sir. I think I did that already. And I know who I am. I think I know I am a child of God. I know that much, when I look in the mirror.
Born that way. That's how we are born.
Yeah, we're born with the Spirit of God that calls us to live and breathe and have our being. But when you receive God as your personal Savior, you become a son of God. You just a person of God, an image of who God really is. But when you're born again and you become a son of God, and you become the offspring. So
okay. Well, we don't have time to have church service here today, but I want you to take a close look at yourself again. I don't have any other questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Let me ask, is there someone from the facility that has any input about Mr. Falls?
So
it's just me in here, Corporal Big.
Okay. All right. Any comments, Corporal?
The only thing I can tell you about Mr. Falls is since he's been here, he's operated himself with respect inside the facility. That's the best word I can give for you for this man here is the respect he showed the staff around here.
Great. Good to hear. Thank you. So, Mr. Falls, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we reach a parole decision?
I want to thank y'all for the opportunity. And I hope what I said had an impact make an impact in my favor on your decision. And whatever I need to do, I'm willing to do, even to make it right for the victim. That's my plan. If parole is granted, my plan is to go apologize to him. That's who I really am. And like I said, I was trying to do that while I was going through the process of the court. But I was advised that I couldn't approach it.
That's right. It's against the law. So
Yeah.
Have you had any victim awareness training?
I'm sorry?
Have you had any victim awareness training?
You mean in which way?
A class
Victim
about
awareness.
victim awareness?
No,
Yes or no?
no. I mean, the
Okay.
classes
That's all right. I mean, I've seen what you've had. I think, is the parole panel ready to vote?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Falls, your case was assigned to me, so I guess I'll vote first. And I'm gonna tell you, it's apparent to me that you don't have a real understanding of why you're here. It sounds to me like you don't think you really did anything wrong. And you really inflicted some damage on these victims. I'm happy to hear what the corporal has said about you. I'm really concerned about your idea that you want to go back in business for yourself, installing fences. Based on the opposition that's been expressed to your early release, my vote today is to deny your parole. Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Fultz, you have what I will courteously call a gift of gab. You're a
I'm
good
sorry.
talker. You have the gift of gab. You're a good salesman. You're a good talker. I agree with Ms. Renatza. You don't know the pain you've inflicted on the people that were the victims in your case. You're blaming your contract. You're blaming the guy that was supposed to get the goods and all of that. And I'm reading the report. You got the checks. You deposited the checks. Yet these people are out their money and you're blaming someone else. You have a lot of gifts. The gift of gab is a good thing. If you're going to be a minister and your heart is really in that, that's wonderful. You can convert and help a lot of people. But right now, I just don't think that you accept the full responsibility of what you've done.
I'm sorry. I do accept the full responsibility. I mean, I'm trying to.
You've had your opportunity to talk. It's my turn now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Based upon all I've heard today, I agree with Ms. Renatza, and I'm going to deny your request for a parole today. I hope that you take some victim awareness courses, put yourself in their position and feel how it feels, okay? Thank
Mr.
you, Madam Chair.
Jones?
I'm sorry.
Hold on, we got to vote.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Foltz, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I agree with both of my colleagues. And again, I want to encourage you to look in that mirror. My vote today would be to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, today your parole has been denied, sir. Good luck to you.
Excuse me. Hello?
No, we're done. We're done. I'm sorry.
Okay, before we unpack this, I want to let you know that we're going to fast forward to 2022, 2 years and a few months from the date of this hearing to watch his second parole hearing. And in this parole hearing coming up, we're going to get Miss Renatza again, but Mr. Roche and sorry, Miss Jackson. And it is interesting how they handle this. So through both hearings, we're getting a little bit of each. And actually, Victor Jones, who shouldn't be mistaken for Mr. Wise, two different people, I really liked what he said. He's like, look in the mirror. Just take a good look in the mirror. I mean, everybody gave him a real smackdown, and I think it's because we don't have tolerance for contract scammers. Like, I think all of us have experience getting scammed by contractors or know someone who has, and it's just this place that, you know, if only the system, the legal system can view roaches, can view those who harm children in the same way that they view those who do contractor fraud. And I think we'd be in a much better place. I mean, to think that he got 15 years, 3 counts, 5 years each, 15 consecutive. Wow. And, you know, there's something about his hearing that I think just left no room for, again, any sympathy or empathy towards him, because he just lied. He just showed up lying, not taking any accountability. It's like, dude, you're locked up. You're in prison. There's zero accountability. And then finding out that he wants to go and start doing the same exact thing when he gets out. And I have a lot to unpack. I thought it would be good to go over one appeal so you can get more of a picture of the facts. We'll watch the second hearing that took place in 2022. And then I'll share a story and give you some additional information about this that might shock you. So anyways, this is part of the appeal and thank you, Richard, for tying both these hearings together, providing the information. Without that, imagine, try to track it, whatever. One day I'll show you the spreadsheets. I know of how this crazy dotting the stars across the galaxy works with Richard, but it's pretty amazing. Now, so he was hired to install approximately 250 feet of fencing for the total contract price of $10,000. 2 days later, Wells provided the defendant with a check, a down payment of $8,000. Now, that's the first major red flag. I was a general contractor for 7 or 8 years of my life. Side of you that many of you probably don't know. And in those years of nearly a decade, I have seen a lot. I have dozens of stories. You never pay someone 80% up front. First huge mistake. Okay. The check was cashed on that same day. The residence was still under construction at the time. The contract was later amended by mutual agreement to reduce the size of the fence by 35 feet and to reduce the total contract price to $9,000. As the residence was still under construction when the contract was executed, Wells contacted the defendant by phone in late February 2015 to inform him that he would commence the work at that time. After additional phone contacts by Wells, the defendant began to work in late March after Wells had moved into the residence. Specifically, the defendant installed a 12-foot fence around the patio, a puppy fence, and began forming the footer or concrete chain wall for the main fence. Wells indicated that the portion of the work described was done prior to July 2015, and the defendant did not perform any additional work. He confirmed that the defendant did not complete the work under the contract. Wells ultimately hired someone else to complete the fence and was never reimbursed by the defendant's portion of his $8,000 down payment. It is interesting that he still got this 5-year sentence. Like it just seems so hard to prosecute people for these kinds of things. But apparently Victor Jones had an experience of it. Now, maybe we can go over this in more detail, but first I think what we should do is watch the second hearing, and then, like I said, we'll unpack it with more details, which we have at the end. So with that, let's go.
Mr. Roche, because your case has been assigned to him.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All right. So you are Tyrone False. DOC number is 114508. You're classified as a first felony offender. You're here for, home improvement fraud, 3 counts. You receive 5 years on each of those counts. You're serving a total of 15 years. You have a good time date, October 9, 2022, with a full term date, November 6, 2030. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you answer Mr. Roche, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Morning, Mr. Fox. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Mr. Fox, you are currently 55 years old?
I'm sorry?
Are you currently 55 years old?
Oh, I didn't hear. Yeah, yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. You're currently 55 years old. You are classified as a first felony offender, and this is a rehearing.
Yes, sir.
What was your first hearing?
2020.
Okay. And why did you get denied?
I think it was lack of understanding of the crime.
And probably a lack of programming.
I'm sorry?
And probably a lack of programs.
Lack of programs?
Yes.
No, I didn't think that was on the paper, sir.
Okay. So basically, you have only taken one good time program, and that's pre-release. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I was told that I wasn't qualified for no other program.
Or qualified for any other program?
I'm sorry?
You were told that you were not qualified for any other program.
Yes, sir.
So basically, a man who is defrauding people, telling that you're gonna build them a fence, and you are taking their money, you're not eligible for any programs other than pre-release.
Yes, sir. I was told that by the sergeant. I wrote a request for some classes. They said I wasn't the class that they had, which they just recently opened some more classes. But they said that I wasn't qualified for the class that I requested, and it was a substance abuse class.
Could it be that you're not eligible for class because you've been in transitional work program since August of 2021?
Yes, sir.
Where do you work?
Sorry? I'm sorry, I can't hear you clearly.
Where do you work?
I work at Bayou Rapide Corporation.
You've been working there since August of 2021?
Yeah,
And what are your hours of work?
my hours of work from 7 to like 4 o'clock.
And you can't enroll in any classes after 4 o'clock?
Yeah, I could have rolled in classes, but when I wrote for the classes, I didn't get a response. So when I seen the sergeant on the walk on the way to the cafeteria, I asked about the class. She said I wasn't qualified. That's why she haven't responded back to me. And
Well, I'd like to see you take some classes in money management, some financial classes. Would the officer at Rapides get into the picture, please?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any good time classes dealing with money management or some kind of financial management?
They have the reentry program, which I believe focuses on some of those aspects, and I'm not sure if his release date is not soon enough is the reason he's not being put into class or not.
His release date is in November of this year.
Okay.
Actually, October of this year.
Well, he's housed next door at the work release facility, so I'm not familiar with Defender Foltz.
I'd like to see him get into some classes so that basically he can get some information on how to manage his money. Because evidently he doesn't know how to manage his money, or because my understanding, you had 3 or 4 victims. You contracted with those victims to build fences. You've gotten money in advance, started on the project, and never finished any one of the projects. Is that about right?
I paid 85% of the project, sir.
Did you complete the projects?
No, the process wasn't completed, but it was started.
You started all 3 projects. But constantly, you've been asked to return and finish the project, and you start another project, get the money in advance, and then you don't complete that project. So tell me what was going on.
I'm sorry? I can't hear you clearly.
Well, you need to turn up the mic, because I'm talking as loud as I can.
I'm not familiar with the tablet. Might have to get the storage.
Said explain to them why you started and didn't finish. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
What was going on that you intentionally defrauded individuals out of their advance money and never completed any of the projects?
I didn't intentionally defraud. It's just had a lot of dealing with the weather. They didn't permit me to complete the job, and the time had expired.
And why start 3 jobs when you can finish? Why start the second job when you couldn't finish the first job?
Well, when you're a contractor, you're doing contractor work, you have jobs that be delayed because of the weather, and then you start a job on the date that you give your client that you're gonna start on, so you're trying to make good on it.
Okay. I'm not gonna get any place with you, Mr. Foster, so let's continue. And you've been incarcerated 4.5 years. How many disciplinary write-ups, and when was your last disciplinary write-up?
I have no disciplinary write-up, and I had took some classes at the last facility, which is DCI. I took. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I took some substance abuse class, which didn't allow you good time, and I took some schooling over there during the time I was over there. Then I got transferred over here at Bayou Rapids work release program.
Mr. Foss, if you would have taken programs, you can earn probably another 240 days good time, which is 8 months, and you would be released sometime this month or next month, if you only completed programs. Do you realize that?
If I had left the facility to come here. That's why the program wasn't complete at the time. But I had completed one, but during the transfer, I didn't have time to get my certificate on one of them, which was abuse, substance abuse.
Did you complete the course?
Yeah, the substance abuse class I did.
And why didn't you get any good time for that?
It didn't require no good time. I took it because I was idle.
Tell me about your transition plan. Where do you plan to live? Where do you plan to work?
My transition plan is to live in Youngsville, Louisiana. My wife, married her 33 years. She got a house from will to her. So I'll be working for Heaven and Earth tree and landscaping up on my release.
And is this your first conviction for home improvement fraud?
Yes, sir.
Is this your first arrest for home eviction of fraud?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we had another arrest. And I'm checking the record right now. So you plan to work for a landscaping company, you don't plan to go back into contracting?
No, sir.
$1985 theft, simple burglary of a vehicle, 1986, criminal trespassing, carrying a concealed weapon, 2001, distribution of Schedule 2, battery on the police officer, 205, 215, home improvement fraud, and that was in Terrebonne Parish. And 217, residential contractor fraud. Is that the same charge?
I don't think that's the same charge, but
When you've been arrested, you were arrested in 215 for 2 counts of home improvement fraud. And
excuse me, I think
you were found guilty in 2017. And sentenced to 5 years. Is that correct?
that's on all 3 charges. I was tried on all 3 charges in the same court at one time.
Right. Okay. And you pled no contest in 2019. Is that correct?
29 on what charge?
On residential contractor fraud.
Yeah, sir.
Mr. Collins, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson has questions. All right, Mr. Foltz, when did you start trying to be a contractor?
I think it was 2007 or 2008. I'm not clear on it.
Are you licensed?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, not everybody knows how to run jobs or manage jobs. And, you know, a red flag is when anybody requests money up front. Because if you're not doing well enough in your business that you can buy the supplies out of your own funds and people give you money up front, it creates a very bad situation because it's very tempting either to pocket the money or use that money for other jobs. And so that's really not the way to run a business. I'm glad that this wasn't flood-related damage to somebody's home. I'm glad it was just fences. But I'm just, at one point, you gave somebody some of their money back. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I give one of the clients.
But then they gave it back to you to finish the job and you still didn't finish.
No, that's not what happened. That was 2 separate jobs, but for the same guy.
But you didn't finish whatever job.
I didn't receive no payment on the first job that I did for him concerning me giving him the I think it's like $3,000 back. But I didn't receive no payment on the job.
Why did you give him $3,000 back? Because you were about to be arrested and you agreed to give him some money back.
No, ma'am, it didn't happen that way. I gave him the money back because what we'd agreed on, he didn't have enough money for the material that he had wanted. So I gave him the money back upon completing the job that we did agree upon. But I never received any compensation on the job that I completed. And
why did you agree to do another job for him if he didn't pay you for the first one?
Because we had a verbal agreement that once I finished that job there.
Why would you agree to take on another job for somebody that didn't pay you for the first one?
Because I trusted him, and we had a verbal agreement that he gonna pay me the full compensation upon completing the job.
And tell me what you do in the work release program.
I work in construction for Bayou Rapide Corporation. I drive skid steel, anything got to do with heavy equipment. Do concrete work, carpentry work.
And what parish were you doing that in?
It's in,
Rapide?
Bayou Rapide Parish.
And where does your wife live?
My wife live in at this time in Youngville, Louisiana.
And how far is that? Is that in Rapides or where is that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's Youngsville. I don't know where that is.
I believe it's on the outskirts of Lafayette.
Let's see. All right. Well, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Foltz.
Mr.
Thank
O'Shea.
you. Thank you.
Mr. Foltz, one question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
When you were convicted, did the court order any restitution to the victims?
Yeah, they order that I pay the full amount of restitution to each victim. I just want to apologize to the victim if they're listening in. My understanding that they're able to attend this meeting, and I just want to apologize to them, let them know I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Falls,
you.
I have just a question. You did the 100 hours pre-release, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In that, there is a component in that class that dealt with money management. Is that right?
I believe so.
And what did you learn from that, if anything?
Make sure you have enough sufficient funds to complete the job and do what you're supposed to do concerning the job and try not to take no money at all.
Your wife has joined us. She was a little later than we got started, and I think she'd like to tell us something. So we'd like to hear from Ms. Victoria Falls. Good morning.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Ma'am.
Good morning. I would like to thank the panel board for allowing me to speak this morning. First, I would like to apologize to the victims for what transpired with Tyrone. And I pray and hope to God that they can find in their hearts to forgive him. Sometimes we do things and we mess up, but we gotta, try our best to fix it and make it right. But I'm Tyrone's wife of 33 years. We had 3 children. 2 are deceased. Our other son was working in Afghanistan. He has a mother, siblings, nieces and nephews. But I would pray and hope to God that you all can find in your hearts to allow him to come back into society and try to start all over, because he has a family that really loves him and cares for him. We live in Youngsville. It's on the outskirts of Lafayette, Louisiana, and we have a home. He would have a job when he gets out working with Heaven on Earth Tree and Landscaping. Here it's in Lafayette, about a half a mile from where we live at. But I hope and pray that you all can find in your hearts to allow him to come back into society and to be with his family once again. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Falls, is there a statement you'd like to make to the panel before we vote?
I just want to thank the panel once again for this opportunity. I appreciate every question that was asked. I pray that y'all took everything in consideration and hopefully y'all the decision be that I can get back to my family and get back to society and just be a part of society and be a plus for society.
All right, sir. I think we're prepared to vote. Mr. Roche will be voting first.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Foltz. You were very elusive this morning. you didn't answer the questions as completely and truthfully as I would have liked. But you've had no disciplinary problems in 4.5 years of incarceration, and you should be commended for that. My decision this morning is to grant you conditionally. I want you to complete another 6 months of transitional work at the Rapides Detention Center Transitional Work Program. I want you to save as much money so that you can make a down payment on your restitution to the victims. After you complete that additional 6 months transitional work program, I want you to have the following conditions. You have a curfew from 6 p.m. From 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I want you to do community service. I want you to give back to the community. This time, I want you to do community service 4 hours a month. Get with your parole officer, get with your pastor, and find some way that you can serve the community. I want you to pay full restitution to all victims as ordered by the court. And I want you to have a substance abuse evaluation and follow all recommendations.
Ms. Jackson? All right, Mr. Fultz, my vote today would be to grant, because you are so close to your good time date, which is in October. But I would add to any special conditions that you not engage in any work as a residential contractor and abide by any other conditions imposed by other members of the board. That's my vote.
Mr. Foss, and my vote also is to grant parole with the special conditions that have been already explained to you. So today, sorry, you've received a conditional grant on the one hand, where Mr. Roche is asking that you remain in work release for another 6 months. Two votes just to grant you outright so that you can go home now and get started. So that is the decision of the board. You understand?
I don't quite understand what you're saying. I know I've been granted.
You've been granted parole.
Okay.
Because you received 2 votes just to grant you outright, that's what will happen.
All right, thank you.
Special conditions.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our business in Rapides. We'll adjourn. It's 9:13 a.m. Thank you, sir, for.
Yes, thank you.
Y'all have a blessed one.
Well, not much change from the prior hearings, not taking accountability, in denial, really just nothing positive to see there. He was ultimately granted because of his prison record and the time that he served. Now, there's a few things I'll share with you that's interesting. One is that, and Richard found this, he is listed as a manager of a construction company in Louisiana, One-Way Construction Demo, and it's his family are the registered agents, and he's listed as the company contact. So I don't know if he's violating his parole agreement, as Ms. Jackson put that as a requirement, or if somehow that expired, but he is back in business. Now, I haven't seen anything that shows that he's done anything wrong in his business. Now, there is one added piece of information that I found in it was Richard provided in doing the unpacking, that also his wife had mentioned, And I don't know if this will change your mind at all, but it certainly is interesting to me. And that is that, yeah, he did lose two children before this all happened. One was his daughter due to cancer, and the other was his son. And both of them are under the age of, well, they were just young, maybe under the age of 10. And the other one was by drowning. So, I start off by saying I don't have, empathy for those who do these type of crimes. But if you need an excuse to say that you just totally got thrown off your game, and this wasn't the crime of the century, it was $15,000 from 3 jobs, and there's a lot of details in it. And it's interesting. I know how I just hate, but when you hear that he did lose 2 children, and there's something else interesting about that, is he never brought it up as an excuse. He didn't bring it up as an excuse in his parole hearing. You wouldn't even known. And we'll find out by reading this article. During his jury trial, he never brought it up as an excuse. And at sentencing, his attorney brought it up. And then the judge said, well, he never brought this up. You never brought it up as part of your defense. You never brought it up in trial. So we can't take that into account. And why that's interesting, I guess you can look at it in a couple of ways. One is, wow, he really doesn't care. He doesn't even bring it up. But 2 is, I look at it in the ways that he's not making he's not making an excuse out of it. He's not trying to scapegoat his dead children. It's like and I have a lot of respect for that. The only thing that's wrong with this case is how throughout the entire process, there really seems to be nothing that makes you want to like him. And that's why it's like all these bits of information, it just confuses me. Now let's go into this article. And let's read through it. So he was found, June 22nd, he was arrested on August 12th, 2015. After failing to do the fencing work he was paid to do at 3 separate homes. Now, state law says that home improvement fraud is committed when a person contracted to perform any home improvement-related project fails to perform any work during a 45-day period or longer after receiving payment. Foles, who owns the company TNT Fencing, by the way, which was interesting because there's another company that's called, I think T&H Fencing. I was like Googling it in Louisiana. It's like a huge company in Louisiana. And I was wondering, hey, was this, done intentionally or is it a coincidence? Anyways, has been in business since 2008. Prosecutors said that he received a total of $14,500 for the 3 victims beginning in 24. It still is amazing. Like, as crummy as it is, 15 years. And he does have a clause, by the way, the judge threw in there that he has to repay them within 6 months of getting out of prison, which is amazing that they have that clause, but at the same time, crazy. Like, who can come up with 15 grand after you've just been locked away in prison for 15 years? The victim made several attempts to contact by the contractor, ignored their calls and text messages. His attorney, Paulie Brown, asked the District Judge Randy for leniency and presented a letter signed by people in the community claiming the defendant is a good person who made a mistake. Foles recently suffered 2 family tragedies that sent him on a downward spiral, his attorney said. We asked the court for a lenient sentence, allow Mr. Foles some type of probationary sentence so he can get out and make restitution to his victims. Can you imagine he's asking for probation and then he gets 15 years? Brown said Mr. Foles has lived in a clean, wholesome life. He was a good family man with 3 children and he stayed out of trouble for many years. Tragically, his daughter died of cancer, and shortly after, his son drowned while swimming in the Bayou Terrebonne River. And there's an article on that. It was his son he tried to swim across the river, and he couldn't make it. And a friend tried to save him, and then a tugboat came and separated them, and he drowned. It's you know what, I'll share it with you. Here it is. This is the article on it. And it's hard. It's just, and again, he was 14 years old, the boy who drowned. And it's like, if that was thrown in the mix, it's interesting. I would have, you know, I would think he might have gotten a more lenient sentence, but he never brought it up. And then at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't bring it up, maybe give him credit. He's not, you know, there's a certain respect I have for that, because it seems like you're taking accountability. But that's what's so weird about this case. There's nothing about this hearing where he took any accountability. He was one of the most, I thought, unlikable people that you would see, especially because of, I think, this feeling that we have towards people who do contract fraud. It's funny. Just yesterday, someone came to my home to do, I believe, contract fraud. And he spoke to my wife, and my wife comes and grabs us, like, come talk to him. And I get at the door, and he's a young kid, early 20s. He looks like an Abercrombie model. He's like surprisingly good looking. And he says he is a pest control company. And he came in with the pitch that he's going to solve a problem that my wife has been complaining about with certain bugs for a very long time. And of course, he got that piece of information from her. And he wanted $160 right there on the spot, and then he would come back tomorrow and do the work. And I'm like, what? I just look at him like, do you have a business card? No. Do you have information? No. There was nothing, and it was such a simple scam. But I think his thing is just to go door to door and try to, you know, get people to pay and give promises. And I just said, like, I just looked at him like, what are you? And he is very disarming, because he's just like a very, you know, pleasant looking, nice young kid who spoke very well and was nicely dressed. But it to me, it was just so clearly a scam. Like, why would I? What are you talking about? I'm just like I'm looking at him like, what? He's like, yeah, my truck's down the road. We sent you flyers 2 weeks ago. I'm like, well, do you have a number? No. Do you have a business card? No. Do you have a website? Yeah, but it's down right now. I was like, okay, great. That's, you know, anyways. But okay. So I have dozens of stories because of being a general contractor. I can go on for hours, but I won't. And I'm sure many of you watching have your own stories, which is why I think the judge threw the book at him. We're just tired of this stuff. But Mr. Falls was any type. We asked the court be lenient probationary victims. Brown said Mr. Falls had lived a clean, wholesome life. He was a good family man with 3 children. Tragically drowned while swimming in the Bayonne. After those 2 tragic things, his upside down, he no longer was the same person. Following his family tragedies, Falls fell behind his business dealings and became disorganized. His business became a mess, Brown said. He never did any of this purposefully. The loss of his 2 children just changed him. He just ran a bad business. Sentencing him to prison term would benefit no one. Now, the assistant district attorney, Jay Luke, painted a very different picture. Mr. Falls chose to come to Terrebonne Parish, and he chose to do work in Terrebonne Parish, Luke said. Mr. Brown talked of a group of people who signed a piece of paper saying he was a good fella. But the names I didn't see on that paper were the names of the victims. The defendant came to Terrebonne Parish and he took our people's money. We request the maximum sentence the court will allow in this case. After hearing both sides of the argument, Bethencourt said the tragedies Falls suffered never came up in his testimony during trial. You see that? Remember, this is a jury trial. So it never came up. He never brought it up. And again, how do you feel about that? And he didn't bring it up in his jury trial. And I mean, in either of his parole hearings, and I choose to look at that as a plus for him, not a negative. We know just because like he's not using it as an excuse. You know, it could be in his mind he really feels he didn't do anything wrong. And a part of me, and it's strange to say this, as much as he gave me nothing to appreciate about him in these hearings, a part of me is pretty mad that he got 15 straight years, even though he didn't serve all of it. But you know that if he had harmed a child, he probably would have gotten probation. And it's just a broken system. We know he didn't finish any jobs and provided one receipt to show he bought any materials for any of the jobs. Not one. Plus, he didn't try to reimburse anyone. It took the defendant's testimony during the trial as disingenuous and self-serving to cover his tracks. There's no question the jury thought so, and they didn't deliberate for very long. It's shocking what the defendant did to those people. Bowles was sentenced to 5 years on each count. He probably should have just gotten 5. 15 is insane. It's insane. It's not right. That's too much. Now he didn't serve the whole thing, right? He ends up serving, his full sentence would have been 2032. So he ended up only serving, I guess, about 5 years. I guess, Now he filed an appeal. I'll put the link in the description. I've gone on too long about this already. But how do you feel? What's your thoughts? Again, like at the beginning, I have no empathy towards, I hate scammers like this. And they should prosecute them more. And especially he went to jury trial, and that's maybe why the judge threw the bucket in a little bit. Man. Did a parole hearing on a man who was sentenced to 15 years for contractor fraud.
Wow.
And I was wondering if you had time. I know I'm calling you unannounced at 1:30 in the afternoon, but if you have time to share a story of maybe how, I remember you had a story of many years ago of someone trying to do contractor fraud with a swimming pool.
Yes, I do.
Do you have time to share with our community?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, this goes back many, many years. Hartford, Connecticut, at the State Armory. They were having a home show. It was the last night, and we decided to go to the home show with the family. The 4 girls, little girls, and the wife and myself. And we go there, and there in the middle of the Armory is this beautiful swimming pool, above ground swimming pool with a diving board and a platform all around the pool. And the kids say, "Oh, Daddy, look at that. Look at the pool." Salesman comes over and says, "Oh, sure. I see your daughters are interested in the pool." I says, "They sure are." He says, "Well, this is the demonstrator. We normally sell the pool for $3,500, but because this is the last night, we will be happy to sell it to you at half price." "Oh, Daddy, buy it. I says, "Wait a minute." I said, "That's a good price, but I only got $5 out of me." He says, "That'll work. Just give me a deposit. When you deposit the pool, you'll pay the balance." I says, "Okay." So I said, for $5, the kids are having a good time. How bad could it be? Well, the very next day, I get a call at work from my wife. She says, "You won't believe it, but a pickup truck has just arrived with all this wood and stuff, and they piled it up on the side of the house." This is February. And they won $1,695. I says, "Well, you tell them that they'll contact me and I will take care of it." So she did. And the next day the salesman calls, says, "Well, sir, may I have my check for $1,695? I says, "You sure can, as soon as I see the pool put up in my backyard and running." "Oh, wait a minute, that wasn't the deal," he said. "You said you'd pay for it on delivery." I said, "I'd pay for a pool on delivery, but not a bunch of wood sitting on the side of my house covered with snow." I said, "If you don't like the deal, take it back." Well, obviously he wasn't going to take it back in the middle of the winter. And so the winter disappeared, the spring arrived, and then I got a call from the sky, and he says, "Well, we're ready to install your pool." I says, "How about the money?" I says, "When I see it installed, I will pay you the money." A week later, My wife says, the 5 dwarfs have just arrived. Hi ho, it's off to work we go. We're going to put a pool up today. And these guys had no idea how to put a pool up. I don't know where he got these 5 guys. But nevertheless, they start digging a hole where my wife told them the pool should be placed. And they started putting the liner in and the trim around it. And in 2 or 3 days, it looked like almost like a pool. Then I get a call from the salesman. Well, sir, you see the pool's coming up there. How about my money? I said, wait a minute. I don't see any water in the pool. I don't see anything functioning. Why should I give you the money? Well, look, I need the money. If I can't get it, I can't pay these guys off. So I said, wait a minute. I got the pool. I got the material. It's in place. How bad can it be? I'll send him a check for $500. So I gave him a check for $500 to keep him happy and to keep the workers working there. Well, about a week later, the pool's starting to take shape. The filter comes in. They're ready to go. They run the line, the electric line to the filter, and it's getting closer to the point where the pool's almost ready to work, but still not operating. And so he says to me, how about some more money? I said, well, $1,700, we got $500, another $500 wouldn't hurt. So I gave him another check for $500 to keep him happy. And a couple of weeks later, the guys come back and they start finishing it off. And by golly, we pumped in the water, we turned on the electricity, and I had a swimming pool. And it worked. So I paid them the balance. And the kids were having themselves a ball. So this is now June and July. Well, in August, my wife calls me. She says, these 2 gentlemen came over to see me. I said, what for? They wanted to know why I have a swimming pool in my backyard. And was I in cahoots with the contractor? And she says, what are you talking about? Well, we see that you have these different payments come through and you got a swimming pool. You're the only one of the 10 people who bought pools that have a pool operating. Are you working with the contractor on this particular situation? And she said, of course not. And she was a little concerned. Well, it turns out that what he did is he sold these pools, got the people to pay for it through a bank. They financed it, and that they were paying off the money to the bank, and he's got the money, but he never put the pools in. So that's the way it went, and it was a little scary. About 2 years later, we're looking for a new car, and I walk into a dealership. The salesman comes over to me. He looks at me. I look at him. Guess what? It's the swimming pool salesman. He takes one look at me, and he runs right out of that sales room and disappears in the back, and that's the last I've ever seen of him. In the meantime, we had many, many, many wonderful seasons with the swimming pool, and all our activities took place in the backyard with the barbecue, the swimming pool, and all the wonderful stuff that goes with it. And that's my story with the contractor.
And I love that story. And you were one of the smart ones that said, I'm not paying you till you complete the job.
And I've maintained that all the rest of my life, and it's worked out very well for me.
The people that this particular person scammed, he took 90% of the payment up front.
Correct.
And he never showed back up.
Correct.
And the judge gave him 15 years. Do you think that was too excessive?
Wow.
That sounds, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
that's a tough penalty.
That is a tough penalty. And I think because so many just have very little sympathy for those who do contractor fraud.
And there's a lot of them out there.
There is.
Especially after hurricanes, when you got these people coming around saying, I'll fix your house, I'll do this for you, and they start and then they don't show up, or they charge you an enormous price because you're desperate. And it's really sad.
I think that's part of the sentencing because of Hurricane Katrina. My guess is that the judge was tired of hearing these stories.
I imagine, yeah.
Well, thank you, grandfather, for sharing with our community. They love you very much.
Pleasure. Very good. I'm looking forward to seeing your episode tonight on YouTube.
Correct. And I look forward to seeing
And
you
after
there.
that, I'm going to see another episode of Biden versus Trump.
Well, and indeed, it's going to be an episode which much of America will be watching.
I think it's going to be a real large audience.
Maybe more than the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, that's pretty, that would be very interesting. Well, okay. Well, have a great day and thank you for calling.
I love you.
Very happy to share my experience with you.
Thank you.
I have a lot more too.
Well, we can't wait to hear them.
Okay. Bye-bye.